got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
What is going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of Dynasty Theory. I'm John Bauer on X at the Bauer Club. We got Dan Lamagna at FF Coach. Dan, what's up, Dan?
Man, I missed you guys. It's been a minute here. You know, I was in Texas last show, and guys, you would not believe the mansion I went into. A friend of the family's friend, whatever, hooked me up with this visit, and it was this attorney in Texas who's this Cowboys fan, and he had a Cowboys movie theater, a Cowboys gym. He had two Cowboys collectible rooms, which included Roger Staubach's locker, CeeDee Lamb's game-used uniform from his rookie year on a mannequin, and like I can't even tell you how much other stuff. We don't have enough time on this show, but boys, I was in my glory, and minus the Cowboys lost to the Ravens that week. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. I just wanted to let out a little excitement and say I miss you guys.
Well, it's good to have you back. What's going on, Mitch, at Dino MC on X?
I think everyone should be proud of me. The Lions are playing right now, and I'm willing to give that up to record Dynasty Theory. So that's how much I love you guys.
Well, it's going to be a fun episode. There's a lot we want to talk about. And let's start off with Rashee Rice, gentlemen. Mm-hmm. You know, the knee injury, we just got a blurb from, I believe it was Adam Schefter a couple minutes ago. We are recording, as you all know, on Monday night. And they're saying that we should have final confirmation of everything that happened with that knee next week. So it's like, is it that mangled? Is the swelling that bad? Like, what's going on there? But there are folks that are like, okay, maybe this will turn out to be a bone bruise. And I'm like, I don't know. Not only did Patrick Mahomes have a horrendous interception, he took out his best receiver all in one play. That's something the Cowboys would do, I think. But like, what are we doing there? Come on. But Rashee Rice, Mitch, you know, we always talk about this. Anytime there is an injury, everybody's got to get out there. Whether you have the person that got injured, you got to find ways to unload him. Or if you don't have him rostered, what low ball can I send to get this player on my roster? And I have a lot of thoughts on this. You know, over on DD Fantasy Football, the Discord community, it was just nonstop. Like, I would say half of the posts today and the questions and the comments and just discussions in general were centered around Rashee Rice. So, Mitch, before we even get into Rashee Rice, when an injury pops up like this, presumed season ending, how do you approach things? Just kind of like on a broad scale here.
Honestly, the first thing I do is I go on Sleeper and my fantasy league, and because sometimes I can't get Dynasty Daddy to pull up on my mobile phone. Every once in a while it doesn't work, so then I have to go look up my rostership, right? So I go on there, look up the rostership numbers, and see if I have a lot or a little of the player. And then I go from there. If it's a young player like Rashee, I know it's all about, hey, trade him to go get someone else. If it's a young player, it's okay just to sit on guys every once in a while. Like, I don't want to trade him for a Christian Kirk. Like I mentioned during all the start shows, like I love what he's done the last 2 weeks. I have no guarantee what he's going to do once Evan Ingram gets back. And like with Rashee, I know when he's going to be on the field for the Chiefs, dude's going to get 25% market share with Patrick Mahomes. That's enough for me. And I know we are all lawyers now, and we all know he is going to be suspended for the first half of next season. I'm willing to let it play out a little bit because I definitely remember him being suspended this season, and that didn't happen. So let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Believe it or not, we don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not willing to sell him for 60% of what I'm going to expect his outcome going to be next year.
So, Dan, Mitch is talking about selling. Are you out on the streets? I know you had a late work night, so, you know, maybe you weren't out on the streets. You were trying to get some Z's here today, but are you going out to buy? You know, Mitch kind of put the sell spin on it. You're on mute. You're on mute.
So, hey, that week off, the Italian in me kicked in again. Anyway, so Mitch talked me off the cliff once here, man, and I don't know if Mitch could do it twice. I was out on Rice for a while there, but past Dynasty Theory episode, we talked a little bit about these guys that get in some sort of legal troubles, or they become. Everyone's looking to move them, and then they turn out to be great players, and you move them too quick. But now, Mitch, we have got not only a guy with off-field problems, and I'm not even worried about the attorney hat, whether he's suspended or not. This is the coach of me saying, hey, I got this guy that can't behave off the field. He has all these red flags in the offseason. We're willing to overlook them because he's a young stud playing with Patrick Mahomes, but now he's damaged goods too. So you're going to tell me I got to wait for this guy that has off-season field issues and his ACL's shot. I was out before, now I'm way out. So JB, I'm selling, buddy. I don't want to be patient anymore.
What are you selling for? That's my question.
That's the problem. I'm looking at JB had some really good trades in these notes tonight, but when do these trades happen? Like pre-injury, post-injury? Because
they're the freshest ones we have.
They're the freshest ones
we have. A lot of people though, just in general, I know their asking price is still a first. I sent an offer, and it was a low ball, admittedly. Hot off his game, DeAndre Swift.
Oh,
I offered DeAndre Swift for Rashee Rice, and
did not. Did you really do that?
Yeah, and I got a laughing emoji, and I DM'd this person. I said the emoji was warranted. You want to test the waters. You want to be first to market. What we've done during the show on a weekly basis throughout the season so far is talking about resetting the market. So we're looking to see how far it's going to swing. We have a young, and I think it's okay to say stud, wide receiver in Rashee Rice. I think I joke with Dan because we throw that term around very loosely here on Dynasty Theory. But with Rashee Rice, first 3 weeks of the season, guys, he was only behind Malik Neighbors and Chris Godwin. You look at the DD Fantasy War Machine. He was elite. You look at the Trinity score. Mitch, you and I talked a lot about the Trinity score on the Start Sit show this week with certain players like Darnell Mooney, even Tutu Atwell, and he put up 80 yards this week. But Trinity score only behind A.J. Brown weeks 1 through 3, 70% air yard share. The next closest is 59%, 31% target share, 8.4 yards after catch per reception. He is a target hog. He is really getting a majority of the work that you want to see and the valuable opportunities, especially with Patrick Mahomes, who now nobody wants anything to do with. Last week, we talked about maybe selling Mahomes. I very quickly have adjusted to buying. And Mitch, you didn't like the trade we made on a co-manage, but that's why I got to pull these trades off whenever you're asleep. But this is not about Patrick Mahomes. The thing with a Rashee Rice, I was thinking about it earlier today, guys. And Mitch, I just want to throw it over to you. What would happen if AJ Brown tore his ACL? What would happen if Nico Collins would tear his ACL?
Don't you put that out there.
But do you
why I gotta do that, JB?
But do you think we'd be having the same type of conversation? And I say we, the Dynasty community in general, with their value?
No, I don't think so. And we might, but it wouldn't be going down to I got an offer for Rashee Rice for Chris Godwin today. Perfectly fair offer. If I wasn't contending, I probably would have traded Chris Godwin at that point. I think that's fair. With AJ Brown, like you brought up, and Nico Collins.
Oh, wait, really quickly. It was your Chris Godwin.
My Chris Godwin, yeah.
Ah, okay.
But I'm contending too.
I agree with
so
you.
It wasn't.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if it was an AJ Brown type player, we would be dropping down to Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave kind of tier, right? Which I don't think that tier is possible with Rashee Rice right now.
Why though?
We just didn't value him that way before the season, so that's how it is now. It's kind of why it's taken Nico Collins being the best wide receiver in football for the last 4 weeks to finally be like, hey guys, he's actually a top 5 wide receiver. Like, yeah, I mean, we know, we talked about it weeks ago on this show, but I'm glad everyone's agreeing.
And I'm looking at like a Puka Nacua. Like you look at some of the trades that are going through involving him, and it kind of goes with what you just said. Like people have these certain wide receivers that they just choose not to really value despite the production. And Puka, we're assuming he's back, in a few weeks. Like he's going to be back in 2024, but there still is a nice discount to be had there. Jahmyr Gibbs punching it in, another touchdown.
Don't you do it. I'm 2 seconds behind.
I'm sorry. I just saw the update on my phone. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Anyway, but like Rashee Rice, everything is there from a stats and metrics standpoint and being tied to Patrick Mahomes. But now like the other side of it, and Dan, you are saying you're so far out, and I get it. But like we're sitting here September 30th. We think his knee is mangled. I see the timeout. 1 sec. And we know how wide receivers, like, let's say he's back next year and he's playing. Is he anywhere near 100% effectiveness? And then with the looming suspension, which I'm not putting my attorney hat on either. I don't even have that hat. But like that comes into play from a value perspective. So a lot of people, they are possibly looking to sell it less than a first value.
Yeah. And I think I have to clarify, JB. I say I'm so far out, but it's just because of the way I play Dynasty, where I know I'm not going to get him at all this year. And I know I'm not going to get him until late season next year. And then how long does it take him to acclimate and get back? So I just don't want to play without a guy for almost 2 seasons. But in the reality of Dynasty, he is super young. He's got a bright future with Kansas City as long as he keeps his head screwed on tight, and he is tight with Mahomes. So he is the kind of guy that, as you compared him to other receivers, you could be a little bit more patient, and he's going to come back to you, barring the unforeseen. So I just don't want that long road, 1.5 2 years. I'm ready to move forward and maneuver my roster a different way.
And it's hard because we have the trades that John's going to probably shout out next. I like Rashee Rice. Like I was saying before, I have no issue getting on my team. But if this is what you could get for him, then I'm not going to have any Rashee Rice on my teams because I like almost all of the returns on this for an injured wide receiver.
There are discounts compared to a healthy Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
But they're not discounted enough.
No.
To take into account, like you're going to be sitting on an asset in all likelihood that, probably isn't going to be back to form in 2 years, right? Like, I think that's reasonable. And part of it is just because of the timing of this injury, but let's get into some of the trades. And, I always like to throw out where these players are valued when we talk about them. Now, this is a sliding scale for Rashee Rice because it's going to drastically change. So keep that in mind. But earlier today, it was around 2:00 Eastern. Again, we're recording this on Monday. KTC had him at wide receiver 11. I expected to settle into the 20s in a week. Fantasy Calc was at wide receiver 12 earlier today. And right before the show, he was at wide receiver 15. And that is based off of real trades taking place. So that is going to be impacted a little bit quicker, I think. Let me ask, is my ranking, Mitch, your eyes just got so big, and I think it's because I got so
Dan highlighted the show sheet, and I was afraid a delete was going to happen, to be honest with you.
Oh, I saw the highlights, yeah. But with Rashee Rice, there's 30 wide receivers I'll take over him, clear cut. No questions asked. And then I have him tiered with 11 other receivers. Do you think that's fair? Or am I way too low at this point in time? And, maybe you need to talk some sense into me.
I think, like, if you're talking just pure Dynasty, I think he's mid-20s minimum. But a lot of our teams are contenders. We play to win more often than not. And so in that case, yeah, he's going to be in the 30s if you're basing it off. You tell me right now, do I want Deontay Johnson or Rashee Rice? You asked me that a week ago. I'm like, you're insane. I want a first on top of Johnson, if not more. Now it's like,
Right, more.
Straight up.
Yeah, I mean, you might have seen people because of where Rashee Rice was a production standpoint and the volume he was getting in that offense. You might have seen people add 2 firsts to Deontay Johnson, which 2 weeks ago he was a dead asset.
Yeah, it's funny just how quick all this stuff changes.
It changes so quickly. All right, so let's go Dan Mitch through the Rashee Rice trades. Rashee Rice or a 25 first, 12-team Superflex start 10 PPR.
I'll take the 25 first and find me the next Rashee Rice.
Ooh,
agreed.
That's how confident Dan is. Wow.
It's just the liquidity in the first. You could trade a first for anything, and a Rice, you have to find a specific manager to trade him to.
Yep, there's some people they don't want to spend on the asset because they are injured. That they're going to think that you're overvaluing. And then there's a lot of people that don't want to trade because, especially. Yeah, I always find these trades interesting, though, guys, because I'm trading a pick for a player that is not going to give me anything. So it's like,
why?
Is it just the why? Yeah. But is it just the expectation that Rashee Rice does return to form maybe sooner than 2 years out? Like, I always find these trades interesting.
Yep.
The next one here, and there were 2 really close together over on dynastydaddy.com. But they were Rashee Rice or DK Metcalf. There were 2 of these. PPR. Who do you prefer, Dan?
DK Metcalf. Give me 2 good years of production at DK, and that is a stud receiver.
Same.
Yeah, I'm smashing that. And you guys knew this wasn't going to be rapid fire. I was so excited to get to talk to you. I always am. But Dan, you said, like, when did these trades happen? Looking at some of these. And I was like, oh, these are the newest ones we have over on Dynasty Daddy. But if in the Discord, within the DD Fantasy Discord, these kind of questions are still coming up. Yeah. Would you rather DK Metcalf or Rashee Rice? Would you rather that first or Rashee Rice? So people are wondering, and I'm hoping that we can shed some light here and provide that clarification. All right, Dan, Rashee Rice or Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, and Colby Parkinson, 12-team Superflex start 11 PPR, and then an additional 0.75 for tight ends.
This one's not as sexy as the other ones and a little bit more of a gamble, but start 11. I'm in a gambling mood tonight, so I will roll the dice of putting Keon Coleman on my roster and then hoping Legette could keep developing and give me a tight end. I'm going to roll the dice on the 3-for-1, but not really confident in that like the others.
I really like the 3-for-1, to be honest. I think Legette's showing out the last 2 weeks, and Keon Coleman's looking fine. I mean, it's not good, but he's looking fine. Like, it's okay. First year, it's okay for a rookie.
I'm smiling because during the Start Sit show, winning the week, only on the DD Fantasy Football YouTube, Mitch brought up Xavier Legette as a guy that he was interested in starting, and I scoffed. I laughed in Mitch's face. And for that, I owe you an apology.
Hey, I appreciate it. We're going to get more than one of those tonight. I have faith.
What, an apology?
Wow.
Yeah.
More than one.
No.
We're getting one.
That's
like, that took a lot out of me to give you one, Mitch.
This is episode 262 of Dynasty Theory. I could count on one hand how many times I've given an apology to either of you guys. I'm going to disagree here. I'm going to take Rashee Rice on this one.
Okay.
I will take Rashee Rice whenever you're just looking to pile up the assets, but also I'm a little bit lower in general on Keon Coleman.
You hate Keon Coleman.
I don't hate him, but I am
you don't like him.
Yeah, it's in the middle though. All right, Rashee Rice. Now we're going the other way with this. Rashee Rice in a 25 first for Puka Nacua, 12-team Superflex start 12 PPR extra point for tight end.
This one, the start 12 is what catches me. And again, that one that I'm not thrilled about, but I'm going to go the right side with this one and the first, knowing, hey, like Puka, I'm still missing him for a few weeks. There's some longer-term injury concerns there. Even though Stafford's playing out of this world, he ain't getting any younger. So I'm going to look forward to next year having the 25 first and Rice back at some point.
Look, I'm in full agreement with Dan. It's going to be really hard to get 25 first off me at this point.
Mm-hmm. I'm on board there with the package side as well. And it's funny because, I go back to Dan's comment. Like some of these, you're like, oh my God, like why would you trade that for an injured Rashee Rice? And then some of them, it's like, it's a pretty good add-on to Rashee Rice to move for Puka. And like Mitch said, like not even really producing, obviously, because he's not on the field. All right, Rashee Rice or T. Higgins, Dan?
I'll take T. Higgins. You know, I'm liking how the Bengals and him are rolling and look forward to seeing where he goes next year.
Xavier Worthy?
This one, I need a plus with Worthy. As much as I love to just like be anti-Rice, like if he didn't hit that like big, huge hitter this week, which he is fast enough to do from time to time, but when he doesn't hit that, like I just don't want that 2 catches for 10-yard performance. So if I don't get a plus, I think I'm just going to stick with Rice.
So I spoke on this in the Discord a little bit earlier today.
You were getting a little pissy.
No, was it? That was good. No, my only comment, Xavier Worthy can get better. Just like Rashee Rice at this point last year, no one wanted him because he wasn't good until later in the season. Xavier Worthy is allowed to get better, and guess what? He's already shown he's pretty good. And yeah, right now he's getting 3 catches a game and a touchdown. Guess what? That's what we thought he was going to do. And now I get him with Patrick Mahomes not having to worry about Mahomes throwing to Rice 30% each game. Yeah, I'm in, man.
The flag that I was about to throw, and if you're newer to Dynasty Theory, Dan has an official flag. I typically use a ratty paper towel, but you made a face when I said you got pissy. It was the period at the end. That punctuation throws me off. Mitch tries to go formal sometimes.
Every once in a while.
And I hate it. I message him separately, Dan. I'm like, if you throw one more period in, I'm going to lose it. But I actually am going to go Xavier Worthy. I think there is the opportunity, yes, to improve. I think he's going to see the field more, certainly now with Rashee Rice being out. I would have taken T. Higgins. I want to throw, one more here. Raheem Mostert and Brian Thomas for Rashee Rice. 12-team Superflex, start 10, 0.5 PPR. I'll go first here. Give me my man, Brian Thomas.
I'm shocked.
Give me Brian Thomas. Is there any disagreement, though?
Yeah, I'm taking Rashee Rice.
Wow. Yeah, I'm with JB on this one, man. I'm liking Brian Thomas a lot early on, and Mostert's just the cherry on top.
Dude, Trevor Lawrence isn't good. I'm sorry. He's just not.
And look at what Brian Thomas has been able to do with a terrible Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, think how good he would be with a good quarterback, though.
I actually, his splits, his deep ball, it actually hasn't been that bad. Right. It's just I think everything else has been bad for Trevor Lawrence.
I don't want anything to do with Trevor Lawrence, man.
All right, so let me ask you guys, and I think overarching here, the thing with like a Rashee Rice, the situations that I think it makes sense, because with the number of leagues we have, believe it or not, I am busy with other things. Dan and Mitch think that I should be at their beck and call 24/7, but these are the show notes. This is it. Yeah,
I think we would have been fine with those show notes, to be honest with you.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there, gentlemen. Our listeners can see the backstage drama. We put on these smiling faces, but they should do like an True Hollywood Story. Nobody will watch that. But anyway, like you have a Rashee Rice, and like the number of leagues I'm in, I have to be selective with what I'm going out. Like I'm not just going to offer things in every single league. Does it make sense for me? Does it make sense for the trade partner? Because we don't want to sit there and just spin our wheels over something that's probably never going to happen, like DeAndre Swift for Rashee Rice. That was one that I did throw out, obviously. But like, if you're contending, it's going to be challenging to have a desire to go out for Rashee Rice. If your team is middle of the road or lower, you're not going to want to spend future draft capital on a player like Rashee Rice because, it's something that could potentially make your team even more fragile. And if you're losing those picks, but for a trade partner, and please let me know if you think otherwise, guys, but like for a trade partner, if you're contending and you lost Rashee Rice, that's when it makes perfect sense, if you're not contending, to maybe unload like a Devontae Adams. You're not contending here. Maybe to unload a Stephon Diggs, a Terry McLaurin. That was one that got floated in the Discord. And I don't know that it necessarily would be a quick, easy rejection for some folks.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think we're at that point. Like, I mean, we're a quarter of the season in at 4 weeks where we're getting a really good feel for our rosters. And if you were like a tweener team or not contended, and now you lose Rashee, JB, I think you're right on with that. It's time to start unloading some of those guys.
And you lose a true difference maker. The war, the Trinity score, like he is a true difference maker. All right, let's move on here. I wanted to spend a lot of time on Rashee Rice because he was the most impactful news situation development from this week. So I did want to spend some time. Now let's go over to Garrett Wilson. Can I make a comment?
I want to make a comment, but go ahead. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
JB's hitting his word count, but go ahead,
yeah,
JB.
He's good. Go ahead. But then I have a comment about why I wanted to talk to him about him this week.
This year, Garrett Wilson is just an expensive Jacoby Myers. That is exactly what he is. Air yards, yards per route run, yards after catch, first downs per route run. It is almost identical. He's getting the looks. He's getting the opportunities. The first read percentage is high, but it's just not clicking. Something is not clicking there with Aaron Rodgers. And like the wide receiver 10 price tag, I am exploring opportunities to move on from my 3 shares of Garrett Wilson if it makes sense. And there's a lot of situations that for me, it would make sense.
Right. So I'm in agreement. So my hope, I was very, very high on Garrett Wilson going into this year. I thought he was going to be in the class. There's Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, then others. And I thought he would be right there in that others conversation. The truth for me is I don't think he's any better than Jaden Reed. He's not better than Chris Olave. He's not better than Devontae Smith. He's getting shut down by good corners, which is fine. But we didn't value him to be a guy that gets shut down by good corners. We don't worry about Justin Jefferson when he goes CeeDee Lamb. We don't worry about Amon-Ra St. Brown when he goes into a hard matchup. We expect these guys to perform. The fact is, Garrett Wilson isn't performing. And if we're going to call 30 yards and a miracle touchdown as performing, then so be it. But there's no way I'm paying wide receiver 10 prices on that. And like I'm in pretty big agreement with John that as of right now, I'm willing to move him off my teams, and I don't see a reason to keep him on there. Go ahead, Dan.
And so send him my way. Send him my way. Because I think you got to be really careful the road you're taking our listeners down here, Mitch, because it's not that he's not as good as those guys. He is in this like trap situation that's gonna bust after the season. This is ready to explode here. Like I have 4 organizations right now that are just like oozing with dysfunction to me. It's like Jacksonville at different levels here. Both New York teams, Jets, Giants, Carolina. But like Al Lazard's their number 2 receiver. Like how do you they're just wasting
Al Lazard's the number 1 receiver.
Oh, but that's just so dysfunctional in itself. If I'm a team, I'm going into game plan saying, hey, we've got to stop Breece Hall. We've got to stop Garrett Wilson. Other than that, let them beat us with whoever they want. And that's what's happening. So we're going to throw it to Alan Lazard, and he's going to get some catches. But this isn't a Garrett Wilson not being as talented as those guys. This is a New York Jets issue, including that coach who, I'm telling you, he is the most overrated head coach I've ever seen in my life there. And him and Rodgers are already not getting along. Like there's a soap opera there that's greater than Dallas. And that's a statement because there's a nice little soap opera going on with my Cowboys, but something's got to break. I think that head coach gets fired after this year or Aaron Rodgers retires. Something's got to give.
So playing
like the expectation was so high.
Hold on. Playing in the exact same stadium with Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors is performing every week. Their whole game plan is every team's game plan is we're shutting down Malik Neighbors because there isn't anybody else on the field that's good.
But there's smarter coaches
shout out
there.
to you guys for Wandell. You guys were higher on him than I was. That's awesome.
My guy Wandell is a beautiful number 2 wide receiver, but there is a better coaching staff there in place that is scheming things up and can make some things happen.
Yeah,
they don't have that in New York.
Man. I can't. I'm willing to move on from Garrett Wilson at this point.
And I'm not saying you pay a premium price, Mitch. So I'm not totally gone where you're going. I get that. I'm just saying you got to be really careful not to give away a really talented dude.
So Dan, let me ask you real quick.
Giving them away.
But Dan, would you take Jayden Reed right now or Garrett Wilson?
I've always been high on Jayden Reed. So
he's a great wide receiver.
Kind of one of my guys too that's really moving up the rankings and is up there. But like 1 for 1, I'm probably gonna be bullish and hang on Garrett Wilson right now.
Mitch, you have been screaming from mountaintops out there in Utah about Jayden Reed on the Start Sit Show. Just wherever you can, wherever you have a platform, you talked about him on Dynasty Theory. I have moved him ahead of Garrett Wilson, and outside of the names, I don't know why we wouldn't. And you talk about, the uncertainty. We don't have that with Jordan Love. The injury and I just.
And Christian Watson's hurt, so things are definitely going. And I'm just kind of looking at the long game of I'm very reluctant to move off.
I have one more for you, Dan.
But really quick, if you're looking at the long game, we don't know what that looks like in New York. We don't know. Look at the way the quarterback carousel just churns and churns and churns with so many teams. Who is to say that Garrett Wilson gets a better situation than what he's in right now? He just isn't producing.
I have one more for you, Dan. It's a younger wide receiver that I'm not sure if you like him all that much or not. Just kidding. I know how much you like him. George Pickens or Garrett Wilson. And we all know Dan is in to contend every year.
I'm a Pickens guy. And I guess what holds me back in the difference when I like Pickens and Jayden Reed.
You paused your mic, homie.
Yeah, dude, you come on, man.
I get mad and I touch I can't keep my hand still, guys. I gotta move the mic at a different angle, so I can't do that maybe. Anyway, so there's still that part of me that's Jayden Reed's not always on there unless it's a 3 wide receiver set. And I see there's other weeks that some other receivers could have good games. I always just kind of cling to those alpha receivers, and I consider Pickens an alpha receiver. Now, I'm not crazy about their quarterback situation either, so that's sticky. But Pickens is a guy I have Wilson ahead of him still. I take Wilson. Take Wilson. You're making it hard on me, Mitch. I like
too. That I will take Wilson too.
Straight up, I do the same. But I mean, if you take the names off and you just look at what's happening, ages, draft capital, everything, people will be like, you know what? Probably going to go with Pickens if you just take their names away.
I don't know how Pittsburgh fixes that quarterback situation ultimately. And I know we're going to get into some Fields conversation after a bit, but
maybe.
He's been fine.
Running the ball.
Fine. We'll get there. I have some numbers for you. All right. So Garrett Wilson, KTC Fantasy Calc wide receiver 10. I have him in the 17 to 22 tier. Mitch, we'll start with you on these. Mm-hmm. Garrett Wilson for my man, Brian Thomas in a 25 third, 12-team Superflex Star 10 PPR.
So speaking about Garrett, I'll take Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson.
The only reason I am not going to say the Brian Thomas side is because I think you can get more than that third.
Agreed.
Not playing within the market overall, you're giving up your advantage from the value perspective and identifying those market inefficiencies. And I think you're leaving value on the table there. Garrett Wilson for Aaron Jones, Deontay Johnson, a 25 third, 26 third, 12-team Superflex Star 10 PPR.
This is another weird one. Like, I'm keeping Garrett Wilson just because Aaron Jones is old, and I don't think Deontay's value is that high yet. But yeah, that's not enough of a package for me to move on Garrett Wilson.
Well, Dan?
Yeah, I feel like I would hate that a year from now.
Yeah.
Just with Jones aging, it's tempting, if I'm on a contending roster, if I really, really, really needed those pieces, but I'll take the Wilson side.
What if those thirds flipped to a pair of seconds instead?
I would flip.
No, yeah, I'd flip. Nah, man. Thirds to seconds.
I mean, you're getting that production as long as Andy Dalton is the quarterback, which I didn't think I was going to say. We had somebody in our league. They said, guys, you need to start doing a segment on the show, like not on my bingo card. That was not on my bingo card. The words, as long as Andy Dalton is his quarterback. But who knows? Maybe Deontay Johnson is traded to the Chiefs here soon, even though I think it's going to be Dan's man, Amari Cooper.
He needs to come back home to Dallas. But
I think he's going to be going to Kansas City, and then I can unload some of those shares at a premium. All right, Mitch, Garrett Wilson for Dalton Kincaid and Ricky Pearsall, 12-team Superflex, start 10 PPR, extra half point for tight ends.
Kincaid.
That's my boy, Mitchell. I love Kincaid, man. The state of the tight end position, it is disheartening. So I'll take Kincaid all day, and we'll see what Pearsall does.
So, Mitch, have you flipped a little bit on your Kincaid position?
Yeah, definitely. No, as he's been used the last 2.5 weeks. Well, yeah. I mean, he's been great. I love how he's getting used.
Yeah, he passes the eye test. He looks great, guys. And I like how they're scheming him. We just need those games to be where they need to keep him involved. And, I think we'll get some good weeks out of him.
I believe he's getting, I think it was 30% first read rate.
Yeah.
I think it was something like that over the last 2.5 weeks. So the script has flipped for him. But also I think what does make him more appealing by comparison is the fact that tight end is just hot trash.
Hey, Laporta has a couple catches. We're back on track. It's all right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I keep looking at my phone here. All right. So we had Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson for 25 first, 12-team Superflex, start 11 PPR. Extra 0.75 for tight ends.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just going to say 25 first because I don't think Garrett Wilson is better than at least 3 of the wide receivers that are coming out this year. That we assume are going to come out this year, I should say.
If I believe it's early to mid, that potential, I take the first. If it looks like a contending team's first, I'll go stay with Wilson.
I agree with that. I agree with Dan's assessment there. If we're sitting there and that team is 4-0, and obviously things can happen as the season progresses, you have to be able to look at that team's roster and evaluate the situation. But I also agree with Mitch's comment about the wide receivers coming in. But not only that, I think we kind of lose sense of it in general. Like, we're still going to get a couple quarterbacks that are going early in the NFL draft. The running back landscape is going to be flipped upside down.
Yes, it is.
So they're going to be hot commodities, those picks.
Yeah, I mean, we already have. People hate it when I said this last time when Bijan was coming out. We have a new Dynasty running back 1. He's not even in the NFL yet. But the second he comes out, he's going to be Dynasty wide receiver or running back 1. Just, it's going to happen.
All right. Justin Fields. I paused there for a minute because I was looking at the other show notes. I don't know why. Justin Fields. Now, I only have 1% exposure. 1%.
Good for you. I have 0.
1 share. But let me throw some things out here.
How does a Steelers fan with 100 dynasty rosters only have a 1% share? Like,
well, because he has 45% share of Russ. It was just offset a little bit.
Okay, so he's quarterback 21 KTC and Fantasy Calc. I'm not that far off. I'm in that 21 to 27 tier. Last year, like I'm going through them. Like, what's the big difference here? He's not making the critical mistakes. We talked about this on the winning the week, the start sit show. He's not making the critical mistakes. Last year, on throws that were 10 to 19 yards down the field, he was 27 to 57, so like 45% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, but 5 picks. and he had an ADOT of 8.5. Okay. So a little bit on the higher end, 14th of all quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks last year. This year, completion percentage from 10 to 19 yards on the field hasn't improved, 7 of 16, but 0 picks. So he's keeping the drives going by not making those critical mistakes. 62% of his throws, this lines up with last year, are throws on the first read. That's 32nd most of quarterbacks. So like he's not zeroing in. He's still buying time with his legs. But again, he isn't making the big mistakes. But his ADOT has come down almost 2 yards. So he's taking, I think, fewer shots down the field, but they're more calculated. And it's played to the strengths of George Pickens and the rest of that team. And Dan, you could say, yeah, he's playing all right, but because of the rushing, we really weren't seeing a ton of rushing. We were seeing a little, but we weren't seeing a ton until this past week. But he still eclipsed 300 yards passing.
He did. And I watched that game. I was very confident against a very poor Colts defense. And that's why I had some Justin Fields DraftKings shares. So, I'm onto something there. I give a lot of credit to what the Steelers are doing with managing him. It's not the kind of circus that the Bears were putting the poor kid through. So there's definitely some positives. And even was with the Bears, he supported a number one receiver pretty decent when he had DJ Moore. I think, he's finding ways to get Pickens the ball. Happy with Pickens 7 for 113 this last game. He's taken some deep shots to him in previous games. I guess when I think of these trades, I don't want to go on this Justin Fields journey long term. I just don't see this kid as a long-term quarterback, and that's what concerns me. He's still taking a lot of sacks. There's times where that offense is still very painful to watch. So it really depends on what my roster needs. Obviously for fantasy, if he's out there and as long as he's running, he's going to run 2 touchdowns in and get you, 50, 5 bonus points just for his legs alone. I mean, there's fantasy value here. So I'm not saying he's a bad piece for anyone's roster. I'm just still hesitant long term. I still don't see this guy as a good NFL throwing quarterback that's going to win any pro football team a Super Bowl. So how patient will the Steelers be? How long can they keep really coaching their tails off to get this production?
Mitch, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold types where it's like maybe a bridge opportunity, but maybe they're playing themselves into a starting role beyond this year. How are you viewing the two of them in Dynasty, but also from a trade perspective?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think Fields' value is where it is. I've looked at the trades that you have coming up, and I am floored. If that is his value now, I'm not going to ever have a share of him in Dynasty. I like him as a player, and I think he's doing a great job for the Steelers. And he could be the starter for him next year. It's just he's not the kind of quarterback I want to buy into. I watched it enough in Chicago, and I know the coaching in Chicago is horrendous. I completely understand that. It's probably 1,000 times better in Pittsburgh. And, maybe I'll say I'll give it another 6 weeks. But as of right now, I'm still burned so bad by what I watched with Chicago for 4 years that I'm just don't want anything to do with it. Maybe I'll come back to bite me, and I'm going to look at these trades and be like, maybe I should have done some of those. But right now, I'm just absolutely not. I'm not doing any of those trades.
Especially if you're okay at the quarterback position. I don't understand some of these trades that we've pulled because I don't think you need to do it now. If you have other options at quarterback, wait to see over the next 6 weeks how this plays out with Justin Fields. Because how much more is the price going to go up when we discuss some of these trades? I mean, if he's,
I think the listeners will be surprised by what the trades you pulled up. They're going to be like, no, I'm not doing that either.
But if he's quarterback 21 right now, maybe he can elevate to quarterback 17 or 18. Yeah. I just don't. I think it's an unnecessary risk, and I talked about it in the Discord whenever it was the preseason with Bo Nix. I was like, you don't necessarily need to go out and pay that inflated price right now. See how things play out over the next couple of weeks. and then you can decide, hey, I'll pay a little bit of a premium, but I feel very comfortable with where things are going. And I think that's where it is with Justin Fields. I think that's where it is with Sam Darnold. Like, I would much rather get up to their value, and I've talked about this countless times, by packaging together 2 seconds as opposed to paying the price on some of these. So, Dan, we're going to start with you. Justin Fields for Aiden O'Connell and a 27 first, 12-team Superflex.
Yeah, this was one of 3 of these trades, JB, that I asked myself the question, do I need Fields? If I like truly need him to win a league, I got a contending roster and I need that starting quarterback and I want to bank on him for this year, I could see taking that. But if I don't, this is one of the rare times I would be patient and take that 27 first for the future.
Yeah, 27 first.
Yeah, I can't get up to a first for Justin Fields. Mitch, this next one.
This one pissed me off when I looked at it. I'm aggravated at this trade. This is, you don't want to say people are really bad at playing Dynasty, but this trade is bad at Dynasty.
So I want to start with Mitch on this one, Dan, because I saw Drake May was involved.
Please do.
12-team Superflex, Justin Fields, and the hefty price of a 25 third added for Drake May.
It's Drake May, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go on a tangent. It's Drake May. It's just, yeah.
Dan, are you there too?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a quarterback that in the Dynasty community, we anticipate having for 10 plus years versus Fields just hoping to get through this year. That's a Drake May.
Let's go back to Dan to start these. I just had to start it with Mitch on that one. Fields and Daniel Jones for 25 first.
This is one of those where, hey, if it's an early or mid first, I want that first. If it's mid to late, I mean, 2 starting quarterbacks in any league, you probably need them. And I would hope at least one of these 2 are going to have a starting job next year. So early, mid, I want the first. If it's like contenders first, it's just too hard to give up 2 starting quarterbacks. I'd negotiate more in my league and try to get more for them.
25 first.
I said it before with the 27 first. I can't get behind moving a first. And we see it in deals involving Sam Darnold, Justin Fields. I'm waiting for us to see a first for Andy Dalton somewhere. I'm sure somewhere somebody was taking the crazy pills, and we'll see something like that. Last one, Justin Fields and Justice Hill for JJ McCarthy.
It's the same as Drake May all over again. And we're taking McCarthy for the next 10 plus years. So give me JJ.
Same.
Yeah, I'll take McCarthy here. But are you guys okay with that? I think Dan, based on his answer with those 25 firsts, like getting up in terms of value, like I'll give you a 25 first value, but I don't want to move a first.
Yeah, I'm not moving my 25 first for Fields plus Jones kind of trades. That's not going to happen.
What about like a Stafford in the second for Fields?
I do that. Okay. Yeah, I don't hate that.
That's good.
Dan, are you okay with that? Contending?
Yeah, I like Stafford in a second there.
Oh, you would take Stafford in a second?
Yeah, I'd love Matthew Stafford, and I'm hoping Puka's going to come back, and Cooper Kupp, is going to come back at some point, and the guy's just playing lights out. It's just injuries has been the issue, and their O-line's going to come back soon too, so that could be a pretty full offensive studded roster. Plus, you got the second next year. Fields could be doing nothing next year, and you've got a starting quarterback in a second.
But again, it goes back into it. What is more meaningful, and what would you rather have? Like actual, like if we get what we saw against the Colts, even a few more times this year, would you rather that, or would you rather whatever Matthew Stafford's trying to do out there?
Yeah, but when it wasn't the Colts, Justin Fields got 11 points, 13 points, 18's a little bit better. So I think he's very.
Oh, I heard his progress.
Hey, 33 is special. That's what we love with those running quarterbacks, right? But Matthew Stafford could put up those big weeks if he gets everybody back, and they're coming back.
Just playing devil's advocate a little bit there, but I also Fields might not be starting in 2 weeks. Like that's a realistic possibility, guys. As much as I'm kind of saying like Fields is improved. Once Russ is fully healthy, if the Steelers lose a couple more games here, he might be out, especially like that one sack he took where he tried to do like a pirouette and lost like 20 yards. I'm like, what? Come on. I was like, this is vintage Justin Fields right here. So anyway,
guys, just real quick, how fascinating is it how a good coach team could make a Justin Fields or a Sam Darnold productive quarterbacks, but other coaches could not do that. And I think that's just something we always got to remember in that fantasy community. Opportunity yields fantasy points.
So I have something that is not on the show notes, and I'm sorry, but where would we be valuing Caleb Williams right now if the Vikings would have traded up and got the first overall pick?
My Lord.
Are we assuming he's producing
with that coaching staff? 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that coaching staff would make him an extremely good quarterback.
Assuming all of that,
he'd be quarterback 3 or 4 right now.
I was just going to say, I think there would be a real case that he'd be quarterback 2.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Or if JJ McCarthy was healthy, we're talking about quarterback 8.
Yeah.
Probably. I think you put him with Ron Jordan Love.
If the Bears don't fix their coach, and I'm praying to the fantasy gods that they throw money at O-line and draft picks at O-line and just help protect him because he could carry things himself.
Yeah, well, we'll see whenever those fantasy points really start piling up for Caleb Williams, if they do. All right, over to Kyle Pitts. This was a good one for me. This was a good one because I didn't have to dig for any stats. He's been trash. And I don't know how anybody at this point in time can come out and defend him. It's Arthur Smith. Well, Arthur Smith is gone, and it's actually gotten worse. Let me just throw the trades here. KTC tight end 5, Fantasy Calc tight end 6. Those will be dropping. I have them in the 12 to 13 tier. I have 11 tight ends that I would just absolutely smash over him. So, Mitch, let's start with you. Pitts for Bucky Irving, Foster Moreau in a 25-second, 12-team, start 12, PPR, extra 0.75 for tight ends.
Bucky and the 25-second.
Yeah, Mitch. I'm with that, man. I love the package. But Bucky's showing promise. Moreau's going to probably outscore Pitts this year or at least score the same. And you got that promising second-round pick next year.
I can't disagree. That's how bad it is, though. Like, how did we get here, guys? It's just so sad.
He is an overrated wide receiver playing tight end. Like, he's just not good. Darnell Mooney is better than Kyle Pitts by far.
100%. Look at Mitch. Look at that Trinity score for Kyle Mooney.
Yeah,
wait. SNL. Mooney. Kyle Mooney was from SNL. He's a comedian. Darnell Mooney. Holy cow. All right, Mitch. Noah Gray in a 25-second.
25
or Kyle Pitts.
25-second. Dude, so there are 12 tight ends we kind of care about in fantasy, and there's always right around 12, right? Pitts is in the other group. I don't care what names you want to bring up right now. Kyle Pitts is in the other group we don't care about. That group you give me 25 seconds for, I'm accepting.
Yeah, Mitch is right. I'm hoping it's like not a contending team second. But...
Right. If they're trading for Pitts, they're probably not contending. Just putting that one out there.
Yeah. Early mid-second, I'm in.
This was a wild one for me. It's no tight end premium, but Pitts for Hawkinson and Kate Otten. No tight end premium.
Yeah, Hawkinson.
Do we have to say?
And Hawk alone, and Otten's actually playing decent lately.
Yeah.
And then Pitts and Shakir for Jordan Addison. 2 PPR for tight ends. Give me Addison.
Yeah. Premium doesn't matter because Pitts ain't getting any catches. So Addison looked awesome this week.
It's just
that's
crazy.
The one thing that people have to remember when it comes to premium. Like, premium was kind of made with tight ends so you could start to play them in your flex over other positions because you're always going to play that one tight end anyway. So the scoring didn't really matter. It was when we could add them to the flex. You cannot flex Kyle Pitts. It doesn't matter what the premium is. There's other tight ends that are out there that are better plays weekly than Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, you can't flex Kyle Pitts. You can't flex Kyle Mooney. Any of the Kyles, you can't flex them. So I like honestly, if you're watching this, first of all, hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the DD Fantasy Football YouTube channel. But also tell us in the comments what you are willing to spend to acquire Kyle Pitts. And let's just say, because I think with a lot of tight end premiums, the most common is like an extra half point.
Yeah.
What would you be willing to spend to acquire Kyle Pitts? I think that'd be a fun exercise to see if there is absolutely any market to move on from him. Last guy we want to talk about, Rachaad White. Mitch, you wanted to talk about him, so I want to start with you here. Just overall, Rachaad White, what do you think?
Yeah, I only brought him up because he is like the running back to where everyone's kind of realizing that they need to trade him, but it's actually like you just need to trade him. Like he's never been a good running back. We just liked him because he was getting like the Najee Harris kind of workload to where he was getting everything. And now Bucky Irving is slowly each week getting more and more and more. And I think Bucky Irving's going to end up being 70% of the snap share by the end of the season. He's just a flat out better running back. So they'll slowly bring the rookie on, give him some time, and then he's going to completely take over. So if you could move out from White, I'm moving out from White. I think he's a completely replaceable back. He hasn't ever been good.
Now, maybe I'm buying a little coach spink, but doesn't this remind you of just like Najee and Warren a little bit? Like the coach talked about, hey, doesn't mean Bucky's a better running back. He's had some better blocks and some plays opened up for him, and they didn't open up for Rachaad White last week. Then we get to this week, and their stats are pretty much identical. They both made some plays. I think the Bucs have had a banged up O-line a little bit. They've struggled at certain points, but I'm not saying he's not replaceable, Mitch. Believe me, I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy about Rachaad White, and Bucky's got definitely the momentum, and he's that Jalen Warren when he was hot for the Steelers, and everyone's like, man, play Warren more or play Pollard more to Zeke. But I think they just each have a role on that team, and I think it's just going to be those splits, and Bucky's going to look a little more flashy some weeks and do a little more. But I'm hesitant to bail on Rachaad White. I think he is still their starter and is going to remain their starter, at least for this year.
What I'm hoping happens, and I know, Mitch kindly asked me not to have him as a main topic here, but like Rachaad White and DeAndre Swift, let them work in space in the receiving game. Like, yeah, I know DeAndre Swift had a nice breakout game there this week, but like, just let them work as receiving backs.
They could beat Aaron Sproles. They'll be fine.
But Rachaad White, like, when he's outside of the tackles, when he's involved in the passing game, that is when he does best. And honestly, give him 10 carries a game. I mean, like you said, Dan, they had almost identical stats, Rachaad and Bucky, but Bucky found the end zone. So I'm not saying the conversation would be much different if it didn't happen or if Rachaad found the end zone, but it would paint a better picture. 61% snap rate in week 4 for Rachaad White, 40% rushing market share, 46% route participation, 6% target share. Weeks 1 through 3, he had a 16% target share. That is the big difference. So just let him work out in space. You want to give Bucky the carries? Great. Like Rachaad White is not between the tackles grinder. He's not making people miss when he's carrying the ball. He has been much more efficient when he's been a receiving back. All right, KTC running back 31, fantasy calc 27. I have him in a big tier of 22 to 33. I actually have Rachaad White and Bucky Irving pretty much back to back. Like at least you get some usable weeks from Rachaad if Bucky were to miss time. And then Bucky's contingent value, I think, is through the roof as well. Dan, Rachaad White or Wan'Dale Robinson, 12 teams, start 13 PPR.
I say, what does my roster need? I lead in Rachaad White just because the value of that running back position. You got to start 13 guys. Do you have the depth there? But Wan'Dale's my boy. I love the talent. So if I'm running back heavy or I got a bunch of running backs to mess around with, I wouldn't mind taking Wan'Dale.
Yeah, I'm going Wan'Dale here.
Okay. Rachaad White for 27 second, 25 third, 25 fourth. So 27 second and a couple thirds and fourths.
I have no patience for all that change. Give me Rachaad White.
Yeah, I'm not trading for 27 picks. I mean, if it's a first, maybe. Anything else, absolutely not.
All right. Rachaad White and Deontay Johnson for Keon Coleman in a 25 third.
Man, that's 2 starters for one. Give me Rachaad and Deontay.
Yeah, that's weird. Agreed.
I mean, you might say that's 2 starters for none.
Oh, you're right, Mitch. He does hate Keon Coleman. That's harsh.
I know. Hates him. I'm guessing he didn't watch the game last night because those back shoulder throws were nice.
It's a big boy plays in the second half. He came along.
No, I'll be honest. I could not keep my eyes open. I was fast asleep. All right, last one. Rachaad White for Zamir White in a 25 second, 14 team Superflex start 10 PPR.
14 team. 14. I want that extra player. I like Rachaad more than Zamir, but they ain't that far off. So that second round pick attracts me. I'll take the second with Zamir.
Agreed with Dan.
Yeah, I'm okay with that one. All right, well, gentlemen, getting through a lot of players here, discussing trades that have actually taken place, where their market value is, and the potential for where it's going to be. Dan, for the 262nd time, final thoughts. What do you have for our listeners?
2 quick final thoughts. 1 football, 1 not football. I'll start with the non-football, man. Just a little respect out there. We lost legends Pete Rose today, man. Charlie Hustle and basketball great Dikembe Mutombo. I might be reliving my childhood a little bit here, but 2 greats, man. So prayers out to them and to their families. And then on the fantasy football closing here, we're a quarter season in, man. I'm looking at my dynasty rosters, those that are struggling a little bit. Hey, is it time to look at a rebuild? I don't want to panic. There's time to catch up in some leagues, but I think you really got to be taking a hard look now before the other owner does and beats you to the punch of getting those assets. So be aggressive on the trade wire this week and really take a hard look at your rosters.
Mitch, what do you got? Final thoughts.
The big thing is sign up for DD Fantasy Football. Use the Trinity tool. Use the War tool. I've been using them all year, and I've had the start to my year has been amazing so far. So definitely paying off. And then watch the start sit. How do you want me to go with this?
Start sit show.
Okay, yeah. Watch that Sunday mornings. I mean, not to toot on our horn, but we absolutely have killed the last 2 weeks. I mean, flat out told everyone not to play Hunter Henry, told people to get off Garrett Wilson. He had an okay game. It wasn't huge, but we hit Darnold over Richardson. We hit multiple things. So just watch the show. I guarantee it'll help you be profitable.
Yeah, hey, just shout out to you guys. Like, we know, like, Friday to Sunday, like, I'm grinding the DFS DraftKings streets, but you guys have become a part of my Sunday routine while I'm studying. I've got a screen on, take it into start sits as I'm looking at Dynasty or looking at DFS and Dynasty. Like, there's a lot to those takes. So keep up the good work. I'm proud of you guys on Sundays.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dad. But he said proud, Anyway, that wasn't an age joke. That was just whatever. So this is your opportunity. The window is open to move on from Travis Kelce. If your season has not started the way you were hoping, this is the opportunity to get him off of your roster. Now, I wanted to bring this up with the Rashee Rice segment, but we talked about him for almost 30 minutes. This is a huge impact with Rashee Rice being gone on Travis Kelce. When you look at his Trinity score from weeks 1 to 3, he was at 4.8, skyrockets to 8.3. For context, last year for the whole season, he was at 6.47. The year before that, 7.29. In 2021, he was at 6.35. He was at 8.3 last week. Do I expect that to continue? Probably not. But, yes, if there's no market, ride the production into the sunset. So, Dan, no reason to throw the flag and say you don't want to give him away. All right. But I would say, I was like, Dan, what's the private chat here? Wow, what a
Time is
monster
now.
run.
So David Montgomery just looked like Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm rooting for Gibbs, and I was hoping it was him. Holy cow, did he look spry on that one play? That was like Barry Sanders, like Mitch.
I thought it was going to be Mitch yelling at me because we're at a 1
I
hour.
know.
and
I'm
5
waiting
minutes
to
here.
go watch my Lions, but I mean, we're
know.
Poor Mitch can't watch his Lions.
But all I'm saying is explore opportunities to move on from Travis Kelce if things aren't going the way that you're hoping up to this point. Just be active, like Dan said, and see if there is opportunity to do something there and get out at a very reasonable price. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Good luck in week 5. Peace.